First time you took drugs?
15. You know what I mean?
What did you have?
The windows were like cardboarded up and shit. They didn't want to see the light. But I still remember the smell of that mattress because it was so horrific. Screaming in pain because like I was in that much pain because of the cold. If you only change a homeless person's external environment and the internal environment is still the same, they're always going to revert back to homelessness. Imagine a full city walking past you, bro. Not even looking at you. I came to jump and I hear someone scream, "Don't do it." Homeless in March, and by December I had 15 people working for me.
Wow. Bang, welcome back to the #1 podcast in the world, our first episode of 2023. And we're starting with a new premise this year. I think one of the overarching philosophies of this podcast and what I want it to become is one of storytelling. I want it to invite the most interesting people with the most interesting stories. And I have to admit, we've started with a very, very strong story, I believe. I think, you know, when I think of resilience, when I think of strength, when I think of perseverance, Jon Paul comes to mind straight away.
How's it going, mate? Thanks
Great. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you.
It's good to see you. We've been going back and forth online for a while.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
you in the flesh.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. So, thanks for getting back to me all those times as well, man. Thank you for being consistent as well, man. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like I said, you know, I don't know the details of everything that you've gone through in your life.
Yeah.
So if you just had like a 1-minute elevator pitch, why don't you send it that way just to kind of introduce people to it?
Yeah, no worries. My name's Jon. I grew up in a pretty hostile environment in my house, man, to be honest. Like, it was pretty average, to say the least. My dad was a very average sort of human. And that just sort of set the precedence for my whole sort of life, you know. I ended up being a very sort of angry and hate-filled sort of person. And that started from when I was a child all the way up till I was about 27. Got kicked out of home at a very, very, very young age. Homeless for about 10 to 12 years, on and off. Living out on the streets, mates' couches, car parks, all sorts of places, man. And about 6 years ago, I changed my whole life around. It's coming up to my 6-year anniversary in March, which is pretty incredible, man. So it's been a journey to get to where I am now. I have two businesses. I have an air conditioning business and an online store that helps people sleep, which is doing phenomenal, absolutely incredible stuff at the moment. So yeah, to say the least, it's been a funny journey, but it's been an incredible journey. And now being able to tell my story from a place of being clean from drugs, I'm no longer homeless and doing incredible things it's a pretty surreal thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's so many bases to cover with that, but it is a story that does kind of strike home with me because I have an uncle that really struggled with addiction for the vast majority of his life.
Yeah.
The vast majority of his life. And even now, he's been sober for, I believe, 20 years. He's been sober for quite a long time. He still feels the flow-on effects, and you can still tell that there is elements of his own character that he's working on.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
It's not something that you conquer this and you finish it and like that chapter's done.
Yeah.
That self-work and that commitment to bettering yourself is constant.
Yeah, absolutely. And we live in a society these days now where drug taking is so just normal. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
And from my experience especially, I think the biggest thing I've probably come to realize is that people that take drugs do it to escape. Mm-hmm. It's an escape mechanism because a lot of people have been through trauma themselves. A lot of people have been through pain. A lot of people are trying to suppress whatever it is inside of them. And they turn to drugs because it is an easy thing. And from a psychological point of view, what happens when you take drugs, there's a massive spike in dopamine. And when you're depressed or upset or feeling stressed or whatever it is, your brain automatically thinks to itself, what can I do to feel happy again? And it automatically thinks of the time that you're taking drugs. And that's where addiction comes from. It's chasing that dopamine hit. And it's a lot of artificial dopamine that's sort of presented in that moment. But the knock-on effect after that, because you feel come downs, you feel worse off, you feel depressed, you feel anxious, everything that flows on from that then just sends you back to doing that all over again.
When was the first time you took drugs?
15.
15 years old. Did you start out a bit of a stoner?
No. I barely smoked, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I never smoked. It was more pingers and pills and
15.
Yeah, and coke and stuff like that. But
wow.
Yeah, but man, like truthfully, I don't know how I didn't. But I never got into the hard stuff like ice or heroin or anything like that, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, it was just a lot of party drugs, MDMA and things like that.
So you were just at a house party one day and someone's like, hey, do you want to take a pinger?
No, I just used to hang around the wrong sort of people and they just all had it.
Right.
Yeah, and I just sort of, to fit in at that age, especially being homeless at 15, on and off and stuff like that, it's whoever you surround yourself with, you end up wanting to become, because you never want to judge somebody that you hang around, you know? So
yeah.
I ended up becoming like those people. And they were just involved in the wrong sort of crowds themselves and they're in pain themselves sort of thing. And then I just ended up down that road myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you feel like it was a pretty gradual process where because you mentioned that you were homeless, right?
Yeah.
So was it just a gradual process of you just hanging around these characters, you're hanging around these people and you're seeing drugs move around more and more often and then you naturally become inundated with it, or did you go in pretty hard-headed, like, you know what, I'm just gonna fucking do a pinger with the boys?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Just doing pingers with the boys, and then it ended up being one of those things where I think by the age of 18 I was almost doing coke every single day.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was I was like, I think I was at 18 years old when I wasn't on steroids and stuff. I think I was walking around at like 56, 57 kilos.
Whoa.
I was so skinny, man. Barely ate, barely drank water, barely slept, anything like that, man. So
coke's a scary one.
It is, because it's so normalized, man. It is ridiculously normalized in our culture, especially Australia. Australia has Sydney. Go out to the eastern suburbs. You're weird if you don't do it.
Yeah.
The amount of times I go out now and everyone's like, oh, do you want to do some coke? I'm like, no, I don't do it. They're like, man, you're weird. I'm the weird one. And I'm not doing it. So it blows my mind to see the drug culture within Sydney for sure. Yeah. So, but look, it wasn't a gradual thing. It was just like, I think I've got a pretty addictive personality. And that probably, I got diagnosed with ADHD a couple of months, like last year. And I think that's one of those sort of things that comes with that.
Do you think you were born with ADHD, or do you think that's a flow and effect from all the drug use?
No, I think that's a flow and effect from my childhood. So I've read something recently that ADHD isn't something that you're really born with. It comes from the environment that you obviously have as a child.
Yeah. And
a lot of, when there's a lot of stress or when there's a lot of sort of angst within that environment, you do end up having ADHD.
Yeah. So what was that environment like? Like, what did you grow up in?
So my dad, man, he's a little bit better now. I've met him once since I was a child, or a couple of times actually. But he was just a very violent person, man. Very, very violent person. And by the grace of God, my mum is still alive, and she's an incredible person now, man. And I love my mum so much, and the resilience that she's shown in her life to do what she's been through and to do what she's doing now. She's doing phenomenal for herself. She's got a new partner, which is an incredible man as well. So, my dad was very violent towards her especially, and she took a lot of the brunt. And to see my mum in pain like that caused a lot of trauma. And as a child, man, and I want to just say this to any parent out there, the way that you speak to your child, the way that you look after your child, those words stick with them for life. Like, I saw a mum out in the shopping centre the other day shouting down her little son, "You're so annoying, you're so this, you're so that." And I'm just thinking to myself, that kid's going to grow up thinking to himself he's not worthy of anything because his mum's just shouting him down all the time.
Yeah.
So if I could encourage any parents listening to this podcast right now, is that speak to your children with love, speak to your children with care, speak to your children with appreciation. They don't owe you anything. You brought them into this world. And that's the wild thing, is like, oh no, my son or my daughter owes me everything. No, you owe them everything. It was your choice to bring this child into this world, you know? So for me, it's just like, love your children like they're your everything, because you're their everything. That's all they know. They only know you. Don't shout them down. Don't treat them poorly. Don't call them annoying or stupid or anything like that. Love them, because trauma has a funny way of sticking around for a lifetime. And the thing I love about our society nowadays is that a lot of people are going to start seeing psychologists and psychiatrists and all that sort of stuff in therapy, and I absolutely love that for people. So it's a good thing that society is now really catching on to something like this, you know, because before, the generations before us, like if you tell somebody in their 60s, oh, go see a therapist, they're like, nah, man, that's bullshit. I'm not going to go speak to somebody about my troubles. Yeah. But our generation is actually really starting to reach out to therapists and stuff.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, right? Because on one hand, sorry, I'm just going to ask you to make this a little bit closer, by the way.
No worries, sorry.
It's a balancing act because on one hand, having like a strong, very assertive figure in life is necessary for development,
Yeah.
right? Like you need someone who's going to teach you that you need to have a spine, you need to be able to stand up for yourself, you need to have a character. And I think, you know, that generally speaking is why we're seeing the rise of figures like Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan. You could even make the argument for Andrew Tate as well, where I feel like a lot of men in particular really don't have those role models anymore, because we're just so conditioned to believe that you have to be kind to everyone and you have to be empathetic to everyone. And yes, absolutely, you do need to have those qualities, and they are essential for just living a normal life. But at the same time, there does need to have that balancing act of like, yes, be kind and empathetic, but not at your own expense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But a man's role as a father is to, yes, love, but teach that son to be assertive as well at the same time. Like, what does Jordan Peterson say is like, I'd rather be a soldier in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to walk around in authority all the time. You don't have to walk around in knowing that like, oh yeah, I'm like this mad person, whatever. It's teaching your children to respect and love, but also to have that, like you said, have a spine and have that sort of assertiveness to you and walk around and have that power within you. But you don't have to use it all the time, you know what I mean? There's those moments in your life where you do have to become assertive and you do have to become powerful. But to show love and kindness to your children, and I think growing up in a household where I wasn't really shown a lot of love, I think it sort of played part in a lot of my choices growing up, for sure.
Where was your source of love growing up?
My grandma. Look, God bless my mum, she tried her hardest, but through the trauma that she went through herself, she struggled, she shut off to the world, man. And I can understand why she did that. But my grandma, she was the most loving human in the world, man. And that was the reason, she was the catalyst to my change. Even when she passed away in 2016, the catalyst to my change came from a dream that I had in 2017. And she came to me in a dream, man, and it just changed my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
So your mum was clearly in a very tricky situation, right? Where she's married to this guy. He was abusive. Like, was he like hitting her? Like,
look, yeah, he was, man. He was a very violent person, man. It was not only her, but it was hitting us as well. Right. Yeah. So it was. It wasn't a good environment to be around, because at that age, especially at the age I was only 5 years old. You feel rejected.
Yeah, of course.
You automatically think to yourself, "There's something wrong with me," without thinking that, okay, my parent has gone through trauma themselves. There's actually something wrong with me. But if I had seen at that point, there's actually nothing wrong with me as a human, there's actually something wrong with him, that would have shifted. But that only came like 2-3 years ago that I actually began to see myself in that light. There's actually nothing wrong with me as a human. I'm not broken. I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me, myself. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with him either, but he's been through trauma himself, and he just didn't sort of, I guess, address it. So that trauma then flows on effects. Now, when somebody goes through trauma like I went through, we have two choices in life. We can either say the next generation is never going to experience the trauma that I've gone through, or we can just be exactly like the person that traumatized us.
Yeah, it's that age-old expression that hurt people.
Absolutely. And I think there's something that I've heard recently is that it's usually the people that need the most love that show it in the most unlovable way. And I think that's so powerful.
It must have been really challenging for you though, like as a 5-year-old kid, seeing your mum having to go through this and having to see her go through it. And I think there's just that natural instinct to want to go and protect your mum and want to go and try and keep her safe.
Yeah. And that's so true, man. And I felt like I let my mum down as well at the same time. So even recently I found that there was I would call it a habit of dating girls that were broken as well, because I felt like I needed to rescue them. Yeah. And that was because of my childhood. So even now that I've gone through all this work that I've done and everything and got myself into a better place, there's still parts of me that still I like that little kid. Yeah. And it's that inner child within us, I think.
Well, it doesn't help that broken girls are usually the most fun as well.
No, I'm not saying that. I wouldn't say that, man. No, the last broken girl I dated, she was a crazy, crazy one, man. Yeah. Yeah, she threw vacuums at me and everything. So.
But some people love the chaos, man.
I don't, man. I don't. I did before, but something just clicked within me recently, and I'm just like, no, I don't want that. Yeah. Because I don't want my kids growing up in that environment, man, you know? So it's
But we've all got that one friend, and you know who you are. We've all got that one friend that is just like absolutely addicted to picking the wrong person every single time.
I'm that friend.
All the red flags are there. They're just waving around.
Red flags. I'm there. Come here, girl. Yeah, if you show me red flags, I'll probably be more interested in. No, I'm joking. No, that's old me. But it's just one of those things. If you don't know who that friend is that usually goes for the girls with the red flag, you're probably that person. So you're that friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, red flags aren't fun anymore to me, man. You get to an age where it's just like, no, I want peace, I want calm, I want clarity and just somebody to motivate me.
Well, especially with your upbringing, right? Like you lived firsthand the consequences of people that are together that shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
And you live those, like you live the byproduct of that, and you see what that does to a family, you see what that does to a household. And one thing I've recently come to terms with is that I don't know if I was just naive or if I was just young, but it always just felt like it was my family that had issues and everyone else's was perfect. And like, cause you only see the surface level stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's very rare for me to go and sit down and have a drink with the boys and be like, fuck, this thing just happened within my family today. My cousin was talking shit about my uncle and now they're not talking to each other, but we're going to my uncle's wedding next week. None of this happened, by the way. This is all hypothetical. But, and then, you've got that one, cousin that's gotten a girl pregnant and now that's a whole mess. And it just always felt like it was my family that was in the chaos. And I always really struggled with that. But the more attention I've paid to other people's families, other people's upbringings, and that's a really big courtesy of the podcast, because without the podcast I wouldn't have heard all these stories and understood where all these people come from, is that everyone's got shit they're dealing
100%.
with. Everyone's got shit they're dealing with.
Couldn't agree with you more, man.
Everyone's a little bit broken.
Yeah. But do you not agree that men struggle to talk to each other about this sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's tough.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
Oh, man, because men are... how often were you told as a kid, don't be a little girl, man, stop crying like a little bitch, or whatever it is, man. We're taught from a young age to not be vulnerable. And, man, so one of these next businesses that I'm sort of looking into get into, it's all about men's health and helping men and having like a forum to help men sort of communicate a lot more, because we do live in a society where, especially now, do you know that 80% of all suicides are male?
Really?
Yeah. That's 4 out of 5 suicides are men. Because let's think about it. How many mates do you have that you're completely vulnerable to?
Probably one.
Yeah, one. And a lot of the time you probably don't even want to tell him all the stuff that you're going through because you probably think you're crazy or whatever it is. But it's just how we're conditioned. We're conditioned to internalize everything. And no, I'm sweet. And I'm still guilty of that these days. No, I'm good. And I suppress it and I suppress it and I suppress it and I suppress it. And how I look at it is that if you put sand into a bucket and you press it down, and then every single time you go through something, you just put the sand is representation of whatever you're going through. You just put more sand in, you keep pressing it. Eventually it's going to explode. Yeah. And that's what's happening these days. But if we look into society nowadays, and I'm not meaning to come across like I'm against feminism or whatever it is, but equality doesn't mean to rip men down. And I'm going to say that straight out. If we are fighting for equality, it doesn't mean that you rip another man down or make him feel less than just to make yourself better than. Like so often I see posts on Instagram of men just ripping men down and what they're about and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, why? Why? There's no need for that. If we want equality, let's be equal. Let's love each other and help each other in that. We don't need to rip each other down and make ourselves feel better, whatever it is. Yes, I believe that there should be equal pay and everything like that.
Well, the irony of the equality argument is, firstly, if you look out through all of human history, where women weren't allowed to drive, women weren't allowed to vote, women didn't have control over their bodies, women didn't have religious freedoms. If you look at the entire spectrum of human existence, which dates back thousands and thousands, probably millions of years, you are looking at the leading edge of human rights. You're looking at the best possible time to be alive in all of human history. And it doesn't mean we've got everything worked out. It doesn't mean we've got it perfect, but there is definitely some massive improvements that happened.
Absolutely. But men and women aren't equal. I've got to say this, not because we're equal as human beings. We should have all equal rights and everything. I agree that. But what men struggle in, women are good at. And what women are struggling, men are good at. How often do you see a woman bricklayer or somebody doing something like that? Men are created to do the hard labor jobs. We don't go to work and think, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be richer than a... No, we do it because that's just what society needs from us.
Yeah.
We're created to be those people. And women are created to be the nurturers and the loving humans that they are to their children.
Yeah.
That's what they're created to be. So, but now everybody's losing their identity in a little bit because it's like, no, I want to be equal to you. No, we're not created equally like that. Yes, we should have equal rights. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think Jordan Peterson summarized it best in saying that you want equality of opportunity. You don't want someone to be robbed of the ability to progress in their life, to progress in their career, because they don't have the opportunities to do so. And that does exist in this world. If I recently just got back from Qatar, where the opportunities for women, the opportunities for men are vastly different. Vastly different. And there are multiple countries, whether that be Russia, China, as extreme as North Korea, where being of one specific gender is just going to give you more opportunities in life. I think when you look at the more developed and more westernized societies, the opportunities are there.
Absolutely.
What specific opportunities do men have that women don't have?
None.
Does that mean that a woman is going to be best suited for a job? No, of course not. Because like you said, if you're going to be a bricklayer, if you're going to be a plumber, if you're going to be operating heavy machinery, then you're going to want people that are sturdier, you're going to want people that are stronger, you're going to want people that are more tolerant to take risk, and generally those are higher paying jobs.
Absolutely.
And so that's where the equality of outcome can't be reached, because the only way you would be able to do that is to cap off what men can earn and reimburse women for not being able to do as capable of a job. But that works vice versa. I think I would have a real issue if I went into a hospital and there's a whole bunch of guys. I'm like, bro, I'm going to a butchery.
This is it, 100%. Because women are nurturing. Women are loving and caring. They have that nurturing nature to themselves. Doesn't mean that they're like any less than us.
And I think if we take that back to the dynamic that you had with your mum and your dad, we're looking at extremes of that, right? Where your father was extremely aggressive and extremely violent and really pushed the limit on what was, tolerable and acceptable, and from the little that I've been able to gather, quite disgusting behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your mother, from what I can understand, it was extremely nurturing and extremely loving to the point where it was at her own detriment.
Absolutely, and that's 100%. And my mum is the most loving human on this earth, man, and I love her so much because she did bring that loving sort of nature to herself, even though she was in pain herself. Yeah. But the thing is, like, my mum has never given up on me, and that's the most incredible thing that she could have done. You know what I mean? Like, all those years that I struggled with drugs, all those years that I struggled with being in trouble with the police, whatever it is, man, she never gave up on me.
Considering you did have such a, powerful figure in your life, in your mother, and that she was so loving and willing to forgive and accepting of you, how did you go from being in this environment at 5 years old to sleeping on the streets at 13?
So, obviously, growing up in that environment as a child, you don't feel very good about yourself, right? So I was in pain. I was in so much pain, man. And as a child, you don't know how to, I guess, express that pain. And because I was in so much pain, I wanted the world and everybody around me to feel it. And I was just a violent human, man. And to be honest, I can understand why I had to leave home, because I probably would have represented my dad to my mum. You know what I mean? That angry, sort of hostile human that I was.
So you felt like he was rubbing off on you?
Oh, man. I was in so much pain as a child, man. And I felt unheard, unseen, rejected. All those emotions just come flooding back, man, sometimes. And
how did that manifest?
When your dad leaves you, you automatically think it's you, man. And I started to become angry. And I was lashing out at everybody around me. I was shouting, I was screaming, I was getting into fights, I was doing everything, man. And I was out of control. And you know what? Like, a lot of people could look at my situation like, oh, poor you, I can't believe you got kicked out at such a young age. But the craziest thing is that it taught me so many valuable and incredible lessons that with my business now that I'm doing, we go out and we hand out homeless sleeping bag backpacks to the homeless now every single month. So it has a sleeping bag, it has deodorant, it has soap, it has disinfectant, all this sort of stuff, and we hand that out to the homeless, man. And that's just the first stage of what I want to do. But without the experience of me being there myself, I wouldn't probably have the heart to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and now I've got a massive vision that in 10 years' time, my vision is to, so I heard something so heartbreaking the other day. It's that there's children in country New South Wales that are being left in juvenile detention centre because it's safer for them to be there than to go home to their parents.
Wow.
And that broke me, man. That broke my heart so much.
Yeah.
So now I want to build facilities to help children, man.
Yeah.
Because if we can cut homelessness at the knees and have it that the children of our next generation are being looked after and they're being built up into being respectable, loving humans into this world, and that homelessness doesn't need to be a thing for them because their family was homeless, that they can have the opportunities that every single person out there has, then we're cutting the source at its knees right there. Then it's not going to be a generational thing anymore.
It's tough, man. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of the safety nets that Australia has in play in terms of like refuges for women and halfway homes and shared accommodations, and you know, they're essentially built for people that don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
And whilst it is, you know, really powerful and amazing that we do have those kinds of opportunities, unfortunately what happens when you group a bunch of kids together that all come from broken families or really tough situations is they all cluster together. And there's almost like a herd mentality. There's a group think, and that's where you start to see the origins of gangs, violent activity, you know, just antisocial crap where kids, you know, when you're 16 years old, you think no one can touch you.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Think you know everything. You've got it all worked out. I was 16, man, and I was dumb. I was
we all dumb,
so dumb, man. I would say and do shit to people that just was so uncalled for. Like, and I was blessed to have a beautiful family where I was protected and safe, and I always had a bed to sleep on, and I always had parents that cared for me, no matter how much of an asshole I was.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm still working on shit, but I can't imagine how difficult that must be for people in those situations that don't have safety nets to turn through. And then they look around and everyone's kind of in this situation they're in.
Yeah.
Like, when you were 13, man, and why did you leave home? What was the day that you went from sleeping in a bed to sleeping wherever you were sleeping?
I almost got into an altercation with my stepdad and I said, "Nah, stuff this, I'm out. You guys don't respect me. You guys don't care about me," and I just left, man. And I remember the first few weeks actually, it happened yesterday. I was sleeping in like McDonald's playgrounds because it was like shelter for me.
Like in the kids'
playground?
playground?
Kids' playground. So I waited till it shut down and just snuck into this playgrounds and stayed in the playgrounds, park benches, all sorts of places, mates' houses sometimes here and there. Look, I think the hardest thing for me...
What was like the first night where you're like sleeping on a slippery dip? And sorry, I didn't mean to make that joke.
No, that's fine, man. No, I look back on it now and I know that it served its purpose. It was difficult, bro. It really was. But I was filled with so much anger back then, and my pride didn't let me feel any sort of like angst or anything like that. I was just angry, you know. But I think the biggest thing is that, yes, the government does a good job of putting homeless people in houses, and we've got all these housing commission and everything like that. Have you ever been to a housing commission, bro?
I have.
Bro, how depressing is it? The environment and everything like that they have those people in. Yes, they're putting roofs over their head, which is incredible. But the biggest thing is, man, if you only change a homeless person's external environment and the internal environment is still the same, they're always going to revert back to homelessness. Because the internal environment, or the external environment, will always represent the internal environment. Now, the only reason I began to change is because I found my faith back then, and that was such a phenomenal thing. So my story of how I changed how my life changed is that I was on a 7-day bender, no sleep for 7 days, bro. And I fell asleep because my grandma had passed away 6 months before. I fell asleep and I had a dream that she was disappointed in me and wanted me to go back to church. And I literally felt the dream like it happened, bro. Woke up in the morning, looked for churches. There was a church 900 meters down the road, and I walked in and my whole life changed. Literally at the snap of a finger, man. Literally felt like all my pain, all my sorrows, everything I had gone through, bro, has just been wiped clean. It was the most phenomenal and insane feeling I've ever felt in all of my life, bro. It's like I met God face to face. It was insane.
Yeah.
And I went from being homeless to building a company up and having 15 people working for me in 9 months. So homeless in March, and then I was grossing somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000 a week at the end of that 2017. And that was all because my internal environment began to change, bro. And the language and how I spoke to myself, that still stayed the same a little bit, to be honest, like, because when you've been through 12 to 13 years of homelessness and rejection and all that sort of stuff, it takes a while for you to change your language, bro, and how you think about yourself and how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
But like these kids, man, these kids that are going together and they are in these environments together and stuff, like, the government needs to realize that they need to work on getting them the help that they need to help their internal environment more than anything, because they're still going to revert back to where they were always if their internal environment stays the same.
It's tough, man, because you're talking about, I don't know what the homeless. Sion, could you find out how many homeless people are in Australia right now?
I think
across Australia, the average monthly number of specialist homelessness services users grew from 84,000 to 91,300 people in 2021-2022. So that would be...
That's just people being helped, but that's not people that are actually homeless.
That's reported homelessness. How many of these homeless people are going to these facilities or going to homeless shelters?
Yep.
Like, the number would be significantly more. But as a base number, we can say there's approximately 100,000 homeless in Australia, right?
Yeah.
As a bare minimum.
That's monthly.
That's monthly?
Monthly. That's wild, man. That's crazy.
That's a lot.
There's like 30 million people in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's under 1%. I can understand that, but still, man, it's still a wild statistic. And I want to, like, the people listening to this podcast, just for a moment, I want you to think back to when somebody made you feel invisible, when you were speaking to them and they just completely ignored you and they walked past you, whatever it was. These people that are out there on the street, they feel that on the daily 100 to 200,000 times. Imagine a full city walking past you, bro, and not even looking at you, like just disregarding you as a human being, just like you're nothing. Imagine that level of rejection. Imagine that level of hurt. Imagine that level of pain. And people that say, oh, anybody can just get off the streets, they just need to change their mindset. Bro, man, that pisses me off so much. I'm sorry to say that word. Because if you've never been there yourself, man, say you were hiring somebody and somebody walks in and they got ripped up clothes, they got dirty clothes and they got not cut hair or anything like that. Would you hire them truthfully?
No, absolutely not.
Probably not. There you go. So anyone can change. No, man. So what my goal is to try and get these people back into a place to getting their lives back on track, man. And I don't want to just do a Band-Aid. I want to give them a proper go.
Did you spend time in the city?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah, 100%.
So you felt that firsthand, like the swarms of people going past you.
100%, man, 100%. I was like 23 years old in the middle of the city and I was sleeping, is it St. James Station? The one that's near the park?
That sounds right.
Yeah, St. James Station, where you go down into the near St. Mary's Cathedral. Yeah. You go down there and there's like a tunnel down. I slept down there heaps of times, man. It was crazy. But it's just what you have to do.
Was there a lot of people that like were around you?
Yeah. People go down there all the time to sleep, 100%. Right. But we just do what we have to do when we're in that position. You know what I mean?
What did you have?
Nothing, bro. Look, I've mentioned this before on another podcast before, man, but this story is the hardest part of my whole story, man. I remember when I was probably 23 years old. It was the middle of winter time, so it was freezing. I had my mate's car because he had lent it to me. I had no blankets, nothing, man. And I was sleeping in the car in the middle of winter. And I still remember the feeling, bro, of like I put every bit of clothing I owned on to try to stay warm. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, like screaming in pain because like I was in that much pain because of the cold, and just thinking to myself, am I that unlovable that no one will take me into the house and look after me or care for me or whatever it is? And I felt that level of rejection like never. And bro, to be honest, man, there's still days I feel rejected now, and I'm out of that. It's scarred me for life almost, bro. And I obviously deal with a lot of my trauma now, and I go see a psychologist and everything like that to get the help that I need because I think it's important. But there's still days that I really, really struggle, man. I really struggle, and it's probably going to stay with me for life. But I've become better at, I guess, addressing it and understanding that feeling is there, but I'm no longer that person that I was.
I can't imagine, man. I can't imagine having... I've never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Having... like, just being so disregarded every single day.
Yeah.
Like, that must have fucking burned.
Man, and you know the worst part? You see, like, I remember I went out on a Christmas party. This was a few years back. And I left the Christmas party early. I just wanted to go around and speak to the homeless. It was in the city. Everyone was going like drinking. I just didn't want to drink anymore. So I went out. There was a guy that used to be on this corner all the time. He has like this big beard, like bit of a fat, like bigger guy. And I was just speaking to him. And this guy that just was an absolute twat, looked like his daddy's little boy, combed back hair and everything, walks past and goes, don't speak to that effing homeless prick, whatever it is. He deserves to be there, the effing dog. And I got up, man, and I fired up like crazy. And could you imagine being abused like that as well? And the guy goes, no, don't worry about it, man. It's all good. I get that all the time.
To go out of your way to shit on people.
Yeah, man, that's the perspective I want to bring to the world. I want people to understand that it's not just as simple of just changing your mindset and getting off the streets, man. There's so many more variables to that.
What percentage of people that you encountered with, right, were people that, because generally the notion with drug addicts, with homeless people rather, that it's either drug abuse, like mental issues, or just people like bummed out of luck. Like they just went through a rough divorce and now they're sleeping in a train station. Like what do you think the split on that is from what you saw?
Mental health is a huge one, 100%. But I think being homeless plays into that mental health thing. Yeah. Because imagine being on the street, you'd be depressed as heck, man, right? And then that leads into other things and that leads into other things. Drug abuse, I actually don't blame people being on the streets that do drugs. They're trying to escape their reality. I don't blame them for doing it. I'm not saying that it's right, don't get me wrong, because there's better ways to do it, but I don't blame them. I really don't. Because I remember when I was in that situation, I just wanted to escape. Do you know I tried to kill myself 6 times, bro? 6 times. When I was between 14 to 27, I tried killing myself 6 times. I didn't want to live anymore. So I don't blame them for doing drugs. I really don't. And the other ones, man, I met so many people out on the streets, like this one guy, Joe. I still remember him, bro. Like I was still going in and out of homelessness myself, but I was trying to get my life on track at this time. I didn't have a lot of money, but I was walking, I was trying to get my PT. I was doing my PT course in the city, across the road from Central Station. And you know where the KFC is on that main road, like where the bus stations are? Yeah, so I was walking there and I literally hear this weeping. And there was like a little fire exit in the wall that this guy was just leaning up against. He was just bawling his eyes out, man. I've never heard a guy cry like that before in my life, man. It was so heartbreaking. And I walked up to him and I just started speaking to him. I was like, man, what's wrong? He's like, I'm homeless. I've been homeless for 3 weeks. My dad kicked me out because I was dating a girl that wasn't part of the religion that he was. And then he moved into another place, and then that person kicked him out because they brought the girl back to the house and he didn't like it, whatever, all this sort of stuff. So he'd been homeless for 3 weeks. Didn't have any money, just like that, just homeless, bro. Just kicked out of 2 houses within a month, homeless. I gave him my last $50 and sent him to the Salvation Army, bro. But that's just how, man, it's just so easy. Another guy that I met 2-3 weeks ago when we were hanging out, sleeping bags, his wife kicked him out because she met another man. Took everything from him, bro. Everyone just thinks, oh no, they choose to be there. No, man, they don't choose to be there. So, would you choose to be homeless if you could not be homeless?
Of course not.
No.
Of course not.
And then you think about, oh, they're doing drugs so they don't deserve to be helped. bro, you guys do drugs every single weekend. Do you deserve to be helped, man? Piss off out of here, bro. You know what I mean?
See, this is where it gets tricky, right? Because I find that when I do encounter homeless people, I don't generally have much judgment. Like, I'm generally very empathetic towards what's going on because I think of myself as an empathetic person.
Yeah.
But there have definitely been times where I've kind of like, just fuck off, man. Like, just leave me alone. I'm not giving you my change.
Yeah.
Like, go get a job. Like, that mentality. Like,
Yeah.
I've thought that before, and I'm not proud of it, but I definitely have thought that. And then there are other times where I haven't, and I've been more generous, and I've been, you know, but I'm always very hesitant to give money.
Don't give money. Go buy them food.
That's what I do.
Buy them water. Buy them undies if there's a place to buy undies around, bro. Do you know how that was the worst part of being homeless for me? It's not changing my undies for like 4 or 5 days, bro. It was nasty. nasty, man. Damn. So like that was the most horrific part, bro. And just the smell, man. Just like, like there was this one time, man. There was this one time, I think I was 17. I was staying in this house with these guys, and they were just full-blown heroin addicts, bro, and ice addicts and stuff. And they let me just stay in the house. But I don't know how I didn't get into that sort of stuff. I just never never felt the need to. But I remember staying in the house, and it was disgusting, man. They never cleaned. It was like the windows were like cardboarded up and shit. They didn't want to see the light. And I remember sleeping on this mattress, bro. I still remember the smell of that mattress because it was so horrific. And I stayed there for 2 weeks because I had nowhere else to go. Like, that's the sort of stuff that I've seen in my life, man, which is wild. To be where I am now, it feels like I've lived 2 lives, bro.
From what I understand, heroin withdrawals generally have people vomiting and shitting themselves.
It's crazy, man. Some of the stuff I've seen, people, this is what happens when you're on heroin. They literally take it, and then like 2-3 minutes later, they're like completely out. Some of them are shitting themselves, vomiting themselves. It's just the most disgusting thing in the world, bro. And it was a horrific place to be, but I would have rather been there than out on the streets. That's just what I had to do, man, to survive.
So you're sleeping
this mattress,
in a room?
This mattress was horrendous. It was out in the lounge room, bro. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life and experienced in my life. It was horrific, bro. The smell has scarred me for life. That's like, if I smell anything like that, bro, I start feeling sick again. Wow. It's crazy. But you know what, man, like seeing things like that.
You needed somewhere to stay, so what do you do?
That's it. So look, if anybody takes anything out of this podcast with me, bro, it's just that have compassion for the homeless because they don't really want to be there. Yeah, sometimes they have mental health issues and all that, still don't want to be there. But imagine for a moment, I just want you for a moment to close your eyes and think back to the most rejected you've ever felt in your life, and then times that by 4,000, and you're feeling that every single day. I felt invisible for so many years, bro. I felt rejected. I felt alone.
And you started in that cycle when you were 14 years old.
Yep.
Those are some of the trickiest years of life, just purely because of the hormones you're going through, purely because you're hitting puberty.
Yep.
And in school, when you feel rejection, it's intense.
Yeah.
And you're trying to establish your identity, and the neuroplasticity in your brain is so ready to be molded and nurtured. And so if you're going around every single day experiencing that rejection, if you're going out every single day hearing that you're worthless, copying abuse from people, sleeping in train stations, you must just, like, that must just become so embedded into you, and undoing that must be such a mission. So I can really understand, or I can really see how someone who has grown up in those conditions wants to make a change in their life, knows that they have to make a change in their life, but doesn't believe that they can actually do it. There's no self-belief to say, you know what, like that, I'm going to go and rent an apartment this month. I'm going to go and buy my own food this month. I'm going to go and have a shower. Like, simple stuff must be so difficult to figure out when you are constantly just in this cycle of thoughts over and over and over again that you're worthless, that you don't mean anything, that you can't do anything. Because the amount of no's that you must just get every single day.
Yeah. It's like you just said, it's that feeling of worthlessness, man. And when you don't feel worthy, you don't want to make a change in your life, bro. You just think to yourself, why would I want to change my life if I'm not worth anything to change it for? You've got no direction of where you're going. You don't know where you're going. All that sort of
Were
stuff.
there points where you felt like you were just waiting to die?
Bro, I tried to kill myself that many times. Is ridiculous. I'll tell you this one time. Look, it sounds wild and it sounds unbelievable, but I can put my hand on a holy Bible right now and tell you that it was the truth, right? There was this time I was staying in Bondi, North Bondi, up near the golf course. Mm-hmm. And there used to be this place I used to go down just to relax. It was on the cliff face, just on the cliff face of the North Bondi golf course there. There used to be this place I used to go down this little sort of trail and it went into this cave. Massive cliff. Would go down there and chill. And this one day, my grandma was about to pass away. It was Melbourne Cup Day 2016. Grandma was looking like she was about to pass away. I was broken, bro. I was just like done. I've been trying to give up drugs for 12 years of my life. Couldn't do it. 11 years. Couldn't do it. I was just at my ends, bro. I just didn't want to live anymore. That was it. I came to jump and I hear someone scream, "Don't do it." Look around, go up to this thing. No one can see you when you're down there, bro. It's next level. Go up to see if anyone's there. No one's there. So I was like, okay, no one's there. I must have just heard that by accident. Like, that's it. As I come to do it again, bro, I hear this roar through me, bro. "Don't do it." I shot myself that much. I ran myself home and locked myself in the room for 3 days, bro, and did not leave my room for 3 days. I thought I was going crazy, man. That's the only that literally is the closest that I came to killing myself right there, bro. Other times I took, they're like pre-workout tablets or something like that make your heart rate, like caffeine tablets. I took 12 of those, bro. Passed out, vomited them up, and I was passed out. There's no reason, like things like that, bro. You don't think you're worthy, man. Why would I want to live anymore?
Yeah.
Why, bro? Why? If I'm not worthy and no one loves me, no one cares for me, no one is trying to help me, the world is against me, all this sort of stuff. Why the frick would I stay on this earth, bro? Why? I'm not worth anything. The world's not going to miss me. And if anyone is feeling like that, I want you to know, man, that the chances of you being born as you are 1 in 400 trillion, brother. Do you know I did some mathematics the other week, right? It might take a little bit for you to sort of catch on with what I'm trying to say here, but for you to be born, it took 2 parents, right? 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and then if you multiply that 10 generations ago, it took like 4,096 people for you to be exactly as you are. It multiplies generation after generation after generation over and over again, bro. 4,096 people to meet, also 2,048 people to meet and have love stories and all that sort of stuff and come together and all that sort of thing for you to be born 10 generations ago, bro.
That's actually crazy.
Think about that, man. So 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 6, and then you keep going up, bro. Up 10 generations, it took 4,096 people for you to be as you are.
And you just don't see it in that perspective.
No one does, man. Your life is so precious, man. If you don't see it as it is now, your life is so precious. It is ridiculous how precious your life is. It's insane. Like when you start to see things like that, when you start to realize just how precious your life is, bro, your whole life shifts, man. I'm grateful for the smallest of things in my life right now, man. Like I'm grateful that I've got a bed to sleep in, a roof over my head and food to eat and water to drink from, all this sort of stuff, bro. And when you start to begin to become grateful for the smallest of things, blessings come into your life more and more every day. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
You good, man?
I'm speechless, man. That was really, really profound. But yeah, you're right. Like, just the odds of being born are so slim, and then to go through everything that you've been through. What would you do for money? How would you?
I had none, man. I literally had none.
No, I know, but you were also sustaining a cocaine addiction.
Yeah, so I would sell just to hold my addiction, bro.
Right.
And I would oftentimes go into debt for it because I would overuse.
You'd run ticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that was my life for so many years, man. I was just a train wreck, an absolute train wreck, man, honestly. And now that I have a purpose and I'm living towards a purpose, man, and I have my faith with me and everything like that, my whole life has just shifted. It's been incredible. And don't get me wrong, man, I've slipped up a couple of times and gone back to like that not got back to that life. I think I've slipped up twice in 6 years on drugs, and I felt guilty as heck, and I don't have that need to want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why I know that addiction and drug use and all that sort of stuff comes from a place of brokenness, bro, because I don't feel that brokenness anymore, which is incredible. But there are still some days that I really struggle.
Are you a fan of, well, not a fan, but like, did you go through a institutionalized program like Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous?
Man.
No,
just started going to church, bro, and that was my place. That was my place where I started to feel. Do you know the first time I walked into church, man, I had some random guy I'd never met before just comes up to me and goes, "Are you okay?" And just gave me this massive hug, bro. That was the first time I had felt love in like 13 years, bro. That was like the most freeing thing I've ever felt in all my life, bro. And that's all it takes sometimes. All it takes is just showing some love. Bro, if you guys have friends that are like are sort of out of control a little bit, that are always doing stupid shit, that are always just really boisterous and you can't stand them sometimes, they're probably going through some stuff, bro. Just show them some love. You know what I mean? I read this book recently. It's called Never Get Angry Again. And it articulates this in such a perfect way. It's like when you get bumped into the back of, you instantly get annoyed and you turn around in annoyance, right? Mm-hmm. But if you turn around and that person's an old man or somebody that's blind, what happens?
It goes away.
Your anger turns into compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person on this earth, bro, has a disability emotionally in that sort of sense. So if somebody's hurting you, don't take it personally, bro. Just take it as a place that person's in pain themselves, man. I still hurt people these days because of my internal pain, bro. I still do things out of place of rejection or a place of abandonment or whatever it is, bro, because it for so many years it was ingrained into the person that I was. It's an everyday process for me to become a better person and to live a better life, but some days are harder than others. You know what I mean? And we've all been through pain, bro. Even the last 2-3 years, going through COVID, like the amount of people that would have felt isolated and rejected and everything like that, bro, that's insane itself. So I try to live my life now. If somebody, there's still going to be people out there that try and inflict pain on me emotionally or mentally or whatever it is, I'm still going to love them, bro, because I know that we're all on a race and we're all trying to be better people. No one intentionally goes out to hurt somebody, bro. And if they do, they're probably a psychopath. We're just on a journey of getting better ourselves, man. That's all it is.
Yeah, we're all a shared group of experiences. Did you ever, almost feel stupid asking this, but like, did you ever feel like you were physically in danger?
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're dealing with,
of course,
when you're dealing with drug dealers, when you're sleeping on the street, like, were
course.
you worried about getting robbed, getting jumped?
Yeah, all the time, bro. Absolutely. And that's what comes with the lifestyle, but you know what I mean? And look, for me, do you know what coke done for me, bro? Because I have ridiculous ADHD. I used to be able to take a line and then go to sleep because it used to calm me down.
Wow.
It used to, bro, everyone would be jumping off walls and I'm just like, no, I'm going to go to sleep pretty much. It used to mellow me, bro. It used to mellow me out. That used to be, so my ADHD was so severe and I was so out of control, and because of that coke used to mellow me. Crazy. Yeah. That's nuts, man. It really is. But yeah, like obviously, bro, when you're living in that lifestyle, there's nothing cool about dealing drugs, bro. There's nothing cool about that lifestyle. Let me say something to you. Look at the bikies and everything like that, bro. Mm-hmm. When have you ever seen a bikie in their 60s or 70s that's full blown loaded?
Yeah, you're right.
Fucking never.
Yeah.
They're all either in jail, bro, or just like doing nothing with themselves and still hanging around the young fellas doing nothing, man.
Yeah.
And look, if you're a bikie, okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend you, but it's true. Like everyone that I used to grow up with, they're either in jail, been to jail, got a hit on them or whatever it is, bro. Fuck that. I'm not going to be like, why would you want to be a part of that? Like, what, so you can be cool and have that lifestyle? It's a luxury lifestyle for a couple of years and that's it.
It's community, man. That's what it is. It's group. You're around people. I mean, I imagine it was very similar when you were living on the streets and that you probably had like regular friends, let's call them, that you'd see every day. Do you have a girlfriend?
Did I have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Bro.
While you were on the streets?
Nah, man.
Nah?
I used to just hook up with girls just so they'd give me a place to live at times.
Yeah?
Sure, absolutely, bro. You just had to do whatever you had to do. Man, could you, Bro, relationships for me, that's still my thorn in my flesh at the moment, bro, because I still struggle with that, bro.
Of course.
Because when you've been through that level of rejection, you just think to yourself sometimes, why the heck is this person with me?
Wait, so you would lay down pipe and then get somewhere to stay?
Yeah.
Damn, bro, that's impressive.
Bro. But I'd get over them in like a week, so I'll just be out of there anyway, bro. So it's like
that's so funny. I would assume it'd go the other way in that, you know, homeless girls would be throwing it around and trying to...
Look, you don't see that many homeless girls my age, bro. They're usually a lot older and they're missing teeth, so you don't really want to go there. But the thing is, girls, man, have this loving and nurturing nature, so they see this broken person, bro, and they want to help him. And that's just what I was, bro. But like I was too broken for me to appreciate any one of them. You know what I mean? I was in too much pain myself to ever show somebody love. How can you love if you've never shown love or you don't even love yourself? How can you love somebody?
You would be homeless and then let's just say you hook up with a civilian, right? A person with their own place to stay.
Yeah.
That in of itself is impressive.
Excuse me, cuzzy. I'm a good looking bloke, bro.
I'm not denying it at all. Oh, god damn, bro.
Gotta do what you gotta do, man.
You've got no excuse out there if you ain't getting it. If homeless guys are putting it down.
Just pretend you're broken, Brad. They'll go for you. Girls love red flags. No, I'm only joking, man.
Damn, bro, that's a resume. That's impressive.
It's I don't know how I did it. I just did it sometimes, man. I think girls love that sort of bad boy sort of element to you or whatever it is. But yeah, it's not like I had a girlfriend all the time, but yeah, there'll be times where I would hook up with a girl just to stay at the house or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it would serve a purpose.
What was the first time that you like had your own place? Like where you were like, you know what, like I'm independent.
That was 2018.
Wow.
No, sorry, 2017, end of 2017.
Right,
so when
5-6 years ago.
Yeah, so when my aircon company took off, so I had like 15 people working for me, which was insane. So literally homeless in March, and by December I had 15 people working for me. It was ridiculous on a massive aircon job, man. Crazy. And the beautiful thing is I did aircon as I still got my apprenticeship as an aircon person when I was 15.
What were the steps? Like how did you go from tonight I'm sleeping on George Street to here now?
I was sleeping on my mate's couch at the time, and so I went to church, and the next day when I woke up I was like, well, I've given my life to Jesus. I can't do drugs anymore. So I just tried to make some changes. I rang 210 air conditioning companies within New South Wales, so like Newcastle, Sydney. Out of the 210, 4 of them said that they needed people, and out of the 4, 2 said yes to me working for them.
Wow.
And then from there, I had a cousin that lent me some money to go buy a car and some tools and stuff like that. And that just set the whole platform up. And then I was working as a subcontractor for a few months.
That must be one of the superpowers of being rejected at mass scale.
You just don't care anymore.
You don't care, right?
You really don't care, bro. Because like my story just shows that you might get 200 and something no's, but it's those 2 yeses or that 1 yes that will change your life. And that's all it is, bro. And that's the same with business even, bro. Do you know what? Business as well. Like I've tried so many things with business, aircon, this, and whatever. And now Calm Palm is the thing that's taken off more than anything, bro. But it took for me to get a lot of failures so I call it the failure foundation. I love it because I believe that in life, it's true for this as well. It's that in order for you to become everything that you are, you must first learn everything that you're not. So let that sink in. In order for you to become everything that you are, you must first realize everything that you're not. And the only way to realize everything that you're not is you must live it. I'm no longer homeless, bro. I'm not a homeless person. I'm no longer rejected. I'm no longer abandoned. I'm no longer worthless. I'm no longer broken. No, I am strong. I'm resilient. I've been through stuff, yes, but I'm no longer that person, bro. So I had to realize everything that I'm not in order for me to get everything that I am and to become everything that I am. And I'm still on a journey now of becoming a better person and learning how to steward my finances and all that sort of stuff. But it took a lot for me to get where I am. And it took a lot of no's and a lot of rejection.
So you get the job.
Yep.
You get the job. You must have been ecstatic.
Oh, bro, do you know the funniest thing is? So there's two sides to air conditioning. There's sheet metal work, so that's all like the ducting, all the grills, all that sort of stuff. And then there's a refrigeration. The two jobs that I've got, the guy goes, the one that I took, he goes, oh, you know what you're doing with refrigeration, yeah? I was like, yeah, 100%. Had no idea. Kid you not. Do you know where I learned? University of YouTube. You got to do what you got to do sometimes, you know?
You got to do what you got to do.
So literally he would go, oh, go pump down go do this, or go do that, or go pump down the systems or whatever. I'm like, yeah, sweet, no worries. And then I would go, I'd watch a little YouTube video and I'll do it as I'm watching the YouTube video, bro.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's just how I learned. I just had to do whatever I had to do. And then 3 months into my, so I was doing that as a subcontractor by myself. And then after work, I would go and do my own independent jobs. So I'd be plastered all over Facebook and Instagram, and people messaging me saying, oh, can you come do my aircon? And then 3 months in, I had this guy call me up. He's like, hey, mate, one of your boys, Vinny, works for us. And he said that you own your own air conditioning company. Do you want to come work for us? Do you and one of your boys want to come work for us? I was like, oh, I'll think about it. Rang up my mum. She's like, nah, stay where you are. You've got stability for the first time in your life. Stay where you are. Don't even think about it. I didn't have anyone working for me. I just had the boys from work helping me out after work sometimes, you know. So I was like, okay, sweet. That was a Friday afternoon. Didn't call him back. That weekend, on the way home that night or that afternoon, I came across a podcast, Living with the Fear of Failure. And it literally was like I was being spoken to directly. Yeah. Because I was fearful of taking that step. I didn't want to take that step because I had failed at so many things in my life. But I listened to that podcast 7 times. I rang the guy up on Monday. I was like, yeah, sweet, let's do it. Hired somebody. And then that was the opportunity that led to me having like 15 boys working for me by the end of the year.
Wow.
Yeah, but it taught me so much about business, bro. If I didn't take that step and that leap of faith,
yeah, because
I wouldn't get to where I was.
You're going from a life where you've never managed $1 in your life.
And I sucked at it, bro. I spent so much money on stupid shit.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fucked.
Like what?
Oh, bro, bought an F-150, bought this, bought that, bought a company car, was living in an apartment that was costing me $700 a week. It was just mental.
Yeah.
But I had to be humbled. And that's what happened in 2019. Someone ripped me off $250,000, bro. And I lost everything.
How'd you get ripped off for $250,000?
So I was working. Oh, bro. So it was like 3 months worth of work. So we did this. I did this job, and the engineer stuffed up. So they realized that we went up a full building. So there's 18 stories. Went up it. There was like eight sort of rooms every floor. So do the maths. I don't know how much that is. But we did one full tower onto the next one. The engineer comes in. He's like, oh, the grills on the outside aren't lining up. So all the exit points for all the grills on the outside, one was over here, one was over here, one was over here, and the builder's like, no, we don't want that. We want them all lining up on the side of the building. So we had to go back through, rip them out, because it was variation, and it was the engineer's fault. They just didn't pay us.
Wow.
I lost everything, bro. So company went into liquidation, forced liquidation in 2019, end of 2019. At beginning of 2020, we went into COVID. So I was ruined. Lost everything. I literally lost everything.
One crappy deal that you got screwed over.
And I couldn't get any lawyers because I had no money. but the story doesn't end badly, because in 2021, it forced me to think outside the box. We had just come out of a massive lockdown, and that was obviously 2020 was a massive lockdown. We were in lockdown for almost a year. Came out of lockdown again in 2021. Started my aircon business up again. It was pumping again. And then as soon as it started pumping, we went back into lockdown again. Yeah. And my emotions were so up and down. And I was, so how I started Calm Palm is incredible, bro. So sitting in my house by myself, I've got ADHD. I know I've got ADHD because I started reading up on it.
Watch a YouTube video.
Pretty much. How do I medicate myself now? That's it. But because I love psychology, man. I love learning about the brain and how people interact and stuff. So I got onto the subject of ADHD. Everything I read, I was like, man, I've definitely got this 100%. Looked for a psychiatrist. Everyone was closed. Everyone was like, nah, we're booked out. Books are closed, or there's a 9-month waiting period. I looked for 3 weeks. Stopped looking after 3 weeks. Stopped looking for a week. Then a week later, I was like, nah, I need to find somebody, man. I'm about to lose my mind. Like,
what was the giveaway sign?
My emotions, bro. My emotions were like, my highs were really high. My lows were hell low, man. Like crazy.
Everyone felt it during lockdowns, being, stuck inside. getting just straight, like, the worst news possible every single day. They had the death count, the COVID cases count, the LGAs which were allowed out and weren't allowed out. It was just like for 2 years straight, they just beat it over your head. And everyone felt it. Like that period of human history is a really weird one. And, you know, I think if it extended any longer, we could have been looking at like serious riots.
But there was serious suicides in that thing in that moment.
Bro. Oh yeah, massive.
You know what I mean, like suicides were through the roof, bro. So I can understand because everyone felt like isolated and but you know what?
I imagine the homeless population increased massively.
Well, not only that, man, but the homeless population, they weren't getting the regular foot traffic of money and all that sort of stuff as well at the same time, man. So, but I think a lot of them got put into houses, I'm pretty sure, from what I heard.
I hope so.
Yeah, they did, man. But, yeah, bro, the whole COVID thing, I think, was definitely a massive light on my life, especially because I felt like in that time, being isolated for so long, I realized that I got a lot of my value from other people. And it was only when I began to start spending time by myself that I really started to love myself more than I've ever loved myself before, because I had to realize that I've got in this world right now. And my value doesn't come from what other people think about myself. My value doesn't come from what I'm doing in the world or anything like that, or what I have done. But my value comes from me being a human being and me being here, and that's all it is. So when I started to realize like that, I started to do a lot of research about like my emotions, all that sort of stuff. And that's when I stumbled across ADHD. So I stopped looking for a week, started looking again. And then I come across one for the first, like I hadn't seen it the last time, rang them up to like, yep, we've got a booking this week if you want to come in. Someone cancelled. It's $750 an hour though. And they wonder why people don't go and get help, bro. So I went in, we just did the test and stuff. I was like, yeah, you got it. Come back in one more time. And we've got to start doing this regularly. I was like, oh man, I can't do this. So I said, you know what? I'll just come back in one more time and see how it goes. The whole time, bro, this psychiatrist is trying to sell me stuff. So this guy's a freaking phony, man. I'm not going to ever come back to this dickhead.
Sell you stuff as in?
Yeah, like, oh, you need to come in and do this $15,000 brain scan. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do... I was like, man, shut up. So I was like, yeah. And then at the end,
Daddy's got bills to pay.
Exactly, man. So, but at the end, he showed me a device really similar to the Calm Palm. And where he showed it to me from was $100. So I ordered one. So I held on to it though, and it literally knocked me out almost. I felt like I'd smoked a joint.
So that was one of the symptoms then, was that you couldn't sleep?
Well, my sleep, I could sleep. I can fall asleep really easily, but my REM sleep, my really deep sleep isn't very good because my brain is always racing. And if I wake up in the middle of the night, there's no way I'm falling back asleep again. Like it's impossible. So that was like one of my, people that have ADHD and trauma, their sleep is really bad because their cortisone levels are through the roof, their stress levels, their stress hormones are through the roof, especially with trauma and PTSD and stuff like that. So I ordered the thing. Then the next day I woke up, I was like, I reckon I could outsource this for a lot cheaper. Looked online, done massive amounts of research, finally found like the one from America came, and the 8th one that I had ordered in came from overseas, the exact same device, bro.
Wow, right.
And then I just started from there, man.
Yeah.
And it's just like since then it's gone crazy, eh?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So how does, Sion, could you just check on the cameras for me, by the way? Yeah. So how does this thing work?
Yeah.
So, like it's a device. You hold it in your hand.
Yeah.
And you use it while you sleep. Correct?
No. So it helps you go to sleep.
It helps you go to sleep.
Everybody knows what acupuncture is, right?
Yeah.
And it's been around for centuries. With obviously an ever-evolving world, no one really wants to go and get needling in the hand all the time because we're trying to be time-consuming, all this sort of stuff, everything's sweet. So in an ever-evolving world, in a world of technology these days, they've created the device that through sending small micro-stimulation signals into the palm of your hand, it activates an acupuncture point here on this on this meridian line. Well, it's called an acupuncture line. That's responsible for fight, flight, and freeze responses.
So there's a nerve that runs through your hand.
So it's the vagus nerve, but there's an acupuncture point right here.
Right.
So this acupuncture point is used to calming the neurons in your body down.
Really?
So when you're stressed and insomnia and all that sort of stuff, this pressure point, if you rub your pressure point there, it calms you down, and on your wrist as well. Yeah.
I'm going to do this on my girlfriend.
Yeah. Come here, girl. You're going crazy. So yeah, it uses microstimulation, like small micro signals to activate the acupuncture point, and it like literally knocks you out, man. It's crazy.
Really?
It's insane. Helps with anxiety and everything. It's crazy. So the thing is, I'm helping people regain the happiness of their life through sleep now as well, getting better sleep. Some of the comments we get from like nurses and all this sort of stuff saying you've like completely changed my life.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone struggles with sleep. I don't know a person that's like well rested all the time.
It's true, bro. It's true. And you know, the worst thing is that if you're not getting proper sleep, your mental health goes down ridiculously. Sleep, and I will say this, I don't care if it gets any backlash. Sleep is the most important thing to a human body. You can go 3-4 days without eating, probably longer. It is really, 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 really hard for somebody to function normally without sleep for 3 to 4 days. You will doze off eventually, man. Like it's hard.
Unless you're on meth.
Or coke. Yeah, I did 7 days.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Take it from the expert.
Never thought about it like that.
You probably weren't eating on that 7-day bender
Nothing, bro.
either.
But it was horrific what I looked like, man.
Yeah.
Horrible. I'll show you photos later on, but it was pretty horrible what I looked like, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sleep is very important, man. So if I can help people get better sleep, that can help with mental health. And all the stuff that I've learned about sleep and what happens to the brain and the psychology is insane now.
How do you feel about supplementation as well? Like I know, is it melanin?
Melatonin?
Melatonin.
Melatonin's good, yeah. But
Yeah.
I am very, very against sleeping pills. Do you know, there's proper study that's shown that people that take sleeping pills are more, they're more likely to get cancer, more
Really?
likely to die in a car accident, more likely to fall off ladders or whatever it is because of the drowsiness that you feel afterwards that is causing accidents. But cancer goes through the roof by like 400% or something on people that did take sleeping pills.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's crazy. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm very against pills in general.
Yeah.
You know, I've experimented here and there, but I've never touched a pill. I refuse to touch a pill. I don't trust them.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you're gonna get something that's tainted or jumped, it's gonna come in pill form.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to disguise.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Like you just hear way more overdoses on things like pingers and.
Yeah.
I did a lot of research on the Oxycontin
Oh, that's horrible,
pandemic
man.
that happened.
That is horrible.
It's still happening in the United States.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's happening here as well. And the way that Big Pharma was able to essentially get this drug, which is essentially heroin.
It's heroin.
It's heroin.
It's pure heroin.
It's the worst kind of drug that you can possibly take and make it not only legal for consumption, but promoted for consumption, where they had doctors, where they had hospitals,
Yeah.
where they had nurses just handing out Oxycontins like they were lollipops. And you had a whole generation of people that would go in because they fractured a thumb or they had back pain or had a broken leg, get hooked on Oxycontins, and then before you know it, they're sleeping on the streets doing heroin in a tent.
Yep. And that's the thing, mate. Like you can't trust the big pharma, bro.
No.
Big farmers, man. They're like, come on, you can't trust them.
That's why this whole pandemic was so weird for me, because I just thought it was a general rule of thumb that whatever Pfizer, Purdue, Johnson & Johnson, whatever they tell you, generally go with the opposite end is where the truth is.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be what they tell you. It's not going to be their studies. It's not going to be their scientists that you want to look for factual information.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they have one aligned goal, and that's
Money.
company profit.
It's money. Of
It's
course
their
it is.
job. Their job is to benefit the shareholders. So if you have a product that is going to generate you billions, if not trillions of dollars,
Right.
and a couple of people are going to get hooked on heroin, but you know what? Every one of our shareholders is getting a new private jet.
Yeah.
They're going to say it's our duty and our responsibility.
We're just trying to help the world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. But that's the thing, is it, mate? I think everything in this world is almost trying to kill you. Like food, fast food, sugar, everything like that, man. Everything out there now, if you're not careful with it, it has a downside to it. But pharma, man, now this year, I've stopped drinking tap water even, bro. I get water that's filtered and everything. It's incredible.
Right.
Huge difference.
I've heard a lot of those claims before. I don't know whether I don't know whether it's very Alex Jones-esque to be scared of tap water or reluctant to drink tap water. I've heard things about fluoride.
Yeah, there's a lot of fluoride in there, but even now the government's telling us not to drink water between a certain time because they're struggling to filter it for the amount of time that we're using it.
Right.
So they're struggling to filter it at the level that we're using. So like for me personally, like, if you taste filtered water, and I know it sounds probably like I'm sounding crazy, but if you drink filtered water, it tastes so different.
It does taste different.
Crazy difference, but
tap water tastes like metal. It does.
It does, bro.
It does.
It does, yeah.
And I don't know, maybe because I grew up never questioning it, but
yeah. I think people are more aware now of stuff.
Yeah, like when I started going overseas and they're like, oh, don't drink the water from there. I was like, wait, what? Doesn't it just come from the tap and it's good? No, that's only in Australia. And then you kind of go back and you go, wait. So if I can't drink the water in Fiji, why can I drink the water here?
They're not, well, we have to get water from somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
have you been to Bali before?
I have not.
Definitely don't drink the water over there, bro. You get that Bali belly, man.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I just came back from the Philippines, actually. And yeah, the first thing I was like, can I drink the water here? They're like, no.
That's fair, bro. That's fair. But look, it's anything in life, bro, I think is a bit like that. It's all into consideration. But drugs is definitely something that is driving the homeless epidemic within this world. Because when you don't work and all you do is drugs, if you got like, man, I've seen stories on Skid Road and San Francisco, bro. There's all these tent cities and stuff like that over there, which is absolutely mental.
Yes,
my heart is like to change and help these people, bro. And it's hard for anybody to help anybody when there's drugs being so freely given out there. Like now in America, apparently, bro, they're giving out needles and drugs for free over there just to sort of help them out.
I have mixed emotions about that.
To stop obviously diseases and everything like that, but then it's just encouraging people, bro.
Probably you're going to have more people doing drugs, right? I don't know about the handing out of drugs. Like I would have to double check that. But I know for a fact that they are, through the Biden administration, they've started handing out clean needles. So you have to, I ask myself the question, if I've got someone that is a heroin addict or is an ice addict or is doing speed and they are in the trenches, the odds of them getting off of heroin or getting off of the drug is 0 to none.
Yeah.
You know, there are freak cases such as yourself where you do manage to pull yourself out. Yeah. But unfortunately right now, the vast majority of people are going to keep using. The vast majority of people are going to keep overdosing.
So why don't we instead of spending so much money on doing that sort of thing, why are we not creating drug rehabilitation centers and wellness centers?
Absolutely. I think we should be doing that. But if right, like I think it's just another Band-Aid, right? Well, if they're going to do heroin, at least make sure that they're not going to die from infection and they can have access to clean equipment.
Yeah.
And there should also be institutions where people are able to do drugs in a safe environment, but it is monitored, in my opinion, where it is monitored, where there are doctors present, where you aren't going to overdose, where you aren't going to die. I don't think everyone should have access to it, but I think in emergency situations where you've got someone that is just shooting up a random amount of heroin, you know, you kind of have to look at that and go, okay, well, can we still allow them to do that in a way that is safer? And then how do we get those people that, okay, now they're in a safe environment where they aren't going to overdose, how do we transition them out of that? It's not going to be ban all the drugs, get stricter on drug regulations, let's not allow heroin into the country, let's put everyone in jail, because that system's been in play for how long and it's getting worse.
Do you know the craziest thing is I went to Portugal and drugs over there is legalized.
Right.
And do you know how much crime has gone down and drug use has gone down? Because I was like, no one wants to use it anymore, pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about the legalization of things, man, but look, from my experience personally, all I know is that people that take drugs are in pain themselves emotionally and mentally. And I don't cast judgment on anybody anymore because of that. Where I used to be like, oh, you're taking drugs, you're this, you're that. No. I've come to realize that everybody is battling something internally. And for me, just to be a helper in those situations, no matter what I can do and no matter how small it is and no matter what part I'm playing is small, I think we all need to play a part in helping the homeless and helping people that are on drugs.
I'm sure along the way you would have had to call in a lot of favors and you would have had to ask a lot of people for help because you wouldn't have been able to do this by yourself.
Yeah.
And I really admire the fact that you're taking that one step further now and you're going, okay, you know what? Like, I've had to ask for all this help. I want to be the one that does this and I want to do it at scale.
Yeah.
This is a big undertaking for one person.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge undertaking for one person. So what's your plan? Like, how are you going to do this at a practical level and how have you been doing it so far?
So there's 3 stages to what I want to do with this whole homeless campaign sort of thing. So stage 1 for me is obviously what I'm doing now, using proceeds from my business to go out, buy sleeping bags, toiletries, all that sort of stuff and hand it out to the homeless. That's stage 1. We'll do that for a little bit longer. Then stage 2 for me is I want to build a massive trailer, like an enclosed trailer that has washing machines, dryers, showers, where the homeless can come, they can wash their clothes, have a shower and stuff, get a fresh pair of undies, fresh socks, even get their hair cut as well. And the idea behind that is that I'm going to get businesses Australia-wide to invest into it. And then on the side of the trailer, they'll have their company logo and all that sort of stuff. So it will be a fully, invested trailer that I won't have to pay for myself. Can't obviously be running and everything like that, which will be good. But getting businesses Australia-wide to sort of invest into it to sort of help me out to get that sort of thing. And eventually my 10-year goal is to have drug rehabilitation centres, homeless shelters, domestic violence centres as well, because I've heard of a lot of, and that touches my heart as well, because obviously my childhood. So domestic violence centres for women that literally have nowhere to go because they've just been kicked out or they've left home because of their environment or whatever it is. And then the children's sort of centre as well to help children break that cycle of homelessness. But look, I've got some audacious dreams and I know it's not going to be easy to get there, but on the days that I feel like giving up, on the days that I feel like it's getting too much, on the days I feel like I can't do it or whatever it is, man, I just think to the why and what I'm doing and it motivates me to keep going, man. And I've built this business that I'm doing now with Jon Paul from we're getting like $1,000 worth of sales monthly to now I'm grossing 5 figures weekly, you know, and I know that it's all to do because I just chosen not to give up. I'm too stubborn to give up now because I know a lot of people's lives are depending on the thing that I can bring into this world. And I hope that even if I just help one person, which I obviously have, but that's all I care about, man. I just want to help people as much as humanly possible, and that's my goal. So
you take a portion of every Jon Paul you sell,
yep,
and you use that to fund your philanthropic work.
$2.
$2.
Yep, $2.
So for every Jon Paul you buy, $2 will go to, right now in its first iteration, go to buying deodorant, going to buying undies, going to buying sleeping bags.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible, man. It's honestly, it's phenomenal to see that. So I'll give you an example. So on the first times I went out, there was this guy sleeping on this bench, and I just put a sleeping bag on the floor. I've even got video footage of it actually, and then like a few times later, I came back to that same sort of area, and there was a guy sleeping. I didn't recognize him. I was like, "Hey mate, do you want a sleeping bag?" He's like, "Nah, someone's already given me one," and pulls out the sleeping bag that I gave him. He's like, "Man, this has been such a lifesaver. Someone just dropped it at my thing." I was like, "Yeah, that was me." He's like, "Man, thank you so much. Like, it's made such a massive difference, blah, blah, blah." And I was just like, it might not seem like much to me and that I'm not doing a lot, but I've obviously helped this man. I've changed this man's life by giving him a sleeping bag and something to sleep in. And in the middle of winter, man, that's the hardest time. You know, it's like having no blankets or trying to carry a blanket around whatever it is, man. It's tough. So I'm just trying to play my part, that's all. And not many 32-year-olds, man, think the way that I think. So I've got a very big desire to make a difference.
Not many 32-year-olds have lived the life you've lived.
Yeah, that's very true.
Actually, speaking on that, I wanted to know, and I forgot to ask you earlier, when you looked around and you're in these communities of people and you were sleeping on the streets, Did you hear of anyone that managed to get out
No,
the same way you did?
no. You just see people disappear, man.
Really?
Yeah, they're obviously either moved on or done something. Maybe some people have got out, man. I'm not sure, but
Right.
I think I read online that just to give up drugs, the way that at the rate that I was taking it, there's a 2% chance that could happen.
Wow.
And homelessness, I think there's a 0.8% chance of becoming unhomeless when you've been homeless for more than 5 years.
Wow.
So I literally go against everything statistically.
You shouldn't exist.
No, I shouldn't exist, man. Shouldn't. And I shouldn't exist for the times that I try to end my life either. But here I am. And that just shows that I've got a purpose on this earth, you know?
Yeah.
Like that just shows for me, it's like, no, you've got a reason to be here, Johnny. So make the most of your life.
At a more upscale level, what changes would you like to see in Australia's approach to homelessness? Well, what is Australia's approach to homelessness scenario? Now, what do we do?
Australia's approach to homelessness, man, there's a lot of organisations out there that help with food, with clothes, all that sort of stuff. But
Red
as I said,
Cross, Salvation
yeah,
Army.
absolutely. But even those places, man, they've got salaries to pay themselves, you know. So not all those donations are going towards the homeless, because just like a government, okay, a government taxes us to build the roads, but they also have to pay themselves a salary and all that sort of stuff. So not all the money that we pay for taxes go towards the community or the roads or the infrastructure. No, some goes, or a lot of it goes to the salaries and stuff. So the similar thing. I'm not saying like Red Cross is bad or Salvation Army is bad or whatever, but Australia needs to get better at, and what I said to you before about the internal environment, I think we need to get better at changing that. Because, bro, there's like, I'll be honest, I'll be straightforward. Like, over the last couple of months, man, I felt depressed like crazy.
Why?
I don't know, man. I think it's because of my past, bro. You know what I mean? I just hit a bit of a tough patch, and old emotions started coming up again, and I felt unworthy, and but even though I have got to a point now where I'm doing incredibly well for myself, there's still a part of me that doesn't feel like I'm worthy of it, you know? And that it's an ongoing process, bro. There's an ongoing process. So, you know, the craziest thing is, man, I realized, I stumbled across this thing that, did you know that there's 40,000 cells that are independently think for themselves within your heart?
No.
Called sensory neurites, I think they're called.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and they can be traumatized too. So not only can you feel trauma in your brain and psychologically, there's these heart sensories that can feel trauma as well.
That's really interesting.
That's crazy,
you
bro.
do feel like that expression heartbreak, as cliche as it is, it's real. You feel that.
Yeah, bro.
Like it hurts in the chest.
And those 40,000 independent cells, they attach to trauma as well. So they're the ones that think that, like, you've been through this before and you could be hurt through this and you can be heartbroken through this and all this sort of stuff. But recently, man, I just felt like I was unlovable, and I just never was going to end up in a relationship because I had so many failed relationships and everything like that. And the one that I went through last year, man, I went through an abusive relationship where I was with a girl that was pretty abusive. And I think that broke me, man. That really broke me. And just the last 2 months, I've just felt a bit flat, felt a bit not myself, and old emotions sort of popping back up, man. But I will say this to people, that it's an ongoing process when you go through trauma. That there will be days that are going to be harder than others, and there will be seasons that will be harder than others. But if you have a good support system around you, I think you'll be sweet.
What does your support system look like now? Have you been able to kind of re-engage with your mum?
My mum's my best friend. I love my mum, man. She's an incredible human, an incredible person. I love my stepdad as well, man. He's an incredible human as well. And we've got a phenomenal relationship now. And I lean on.
They must be so freaked out by you.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely, 100%. It's like I was a horrible person before, man. I really was, and that's the only way I can really put it. And I'm not putting myself down or anything, but I was a pretty average human. And now for my mum to see where I am now, and for me to doing what I'm doing, is, I think she's pretty proud, man. To be honest, yeah, she would be very proud. Yeah,
so she should be.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh? But look, look, the reason why I come on podcasts like this, man, the reason why I try to get my story out there as much as possible, not to boast, not to do anything, but I want to encourage people that are at the ends of themselves right now to see that there is a way out. no matter how broken your life is, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how unwanted, unloved, anything like that, I want you to know that you are loved, that you are cared for, that you are able to get out of your circumstances if you just be consistent. Consistency is the key, bro. Consistency is the key. That's all it comes down to.
So if consistency is the key and it is an internal job and you do have to work at it consistently, how can we at scale leverage all the resources the government has to get people out of homeless? Because in my opinion, this should be the leading issue of all political debates. This should be the highest priority. Because think about what a country is, right? A country is a group of people that come together and we compete on the global markets and we say, okay, we're going to produce coal and we're going to produce cattle and we're going to produce dairy and we're going to send this to the rest of the world because the rest of the world needs this, and we're going to have lots of money to build roads and schools and buildings so that we can go and produce more of the stuff that we have. And the way that you can like infinitely compete at scale, and I think China's a living example of this, is that you have to have less losers. You have to have less people that are stuck in...
Bro, but China's one of the poorest countries in the world, man. Have you seen the way some of them live?
I would push back on that.
No, like, I mean, okay, yeah, the rich are very rich. They're like the richest in the world. I 100% agree with that. But there's a lower class people where they live like week to week and they've got nothing there and all that sort of stuff. That's... Bro,
there's extreme poverty in China, but China has one of the fastest growing.
For sure, they're the richest,
fastest growing middle classes in the world.
They're the superpower of the world now, 100%.
You know, China in its ingenuity and its structure, and I think the difference is with China is that they don't have a democratic process the same way we do. So they're a lot more nimble. They just what they say goes. And what they do to keep housing, for example, housing prices, right? It's one of the biggest issues that we're facing in Australia right now. To get a rental, you have to line up for 3 days, camp out, and hope.
And even if when you do get a rental property, it's like 3 times what it was back in the day, man.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
And so what China did to circumnavigate that was they said, okay, to keep housing prices affordable for the middle class, what we're going to do is we're going to build a whole bunch of cities that we don't need, so that there is an oversupply of cities and people always have places to live.
That's smart.
Really smart, right?
That's ridiculously smart.
It's so obvious. And when you look at Australia and all the land we have and all the potential for growth that we have here, you go, hang on, wait, why aren't we doing that? Well, the reason we're not doing that is because we're going back and forth on whether we should be doing this foreign policy. It's not focused. China's a very focused approach to their economy. And I think one of the easiest thing, well, not the easiest, but one of the most important things that we have to do here in Australia is really target homelessness and really target the people that are suffering in Australia, because it's horrible, man. No one wants to live on the street and no one wants to live across the road where people are living on the street. Like it benefits everyone. We don't want those people there. Let's put them somewhere nice at the very least.
But then it comes back to the point that I was saying before. We need to put more money into educating and building up people that are psychologists, therapists, and all that sort of stuff.
So if you were Prime Minister of Australia and you had complete... let's play a game here. If you were Xi Jinping of China and you didn't have anyone to answer to, you've got ultimate power, what would you do to tackle this?
So Australia, I think, spent $800 million on homelessness last year or the year before, I'm pretty sure. Some wild number like that. I would honestly put half of that towards... So what they're doing essentially is they're just putting these people into houses, an endless amount of number into these houses. What if we brought down that amount of people that we're putting into those shelters or whatever just for a moment, and we focus on the people that we are putting into housing and getting them into a better place mentally, emotionally, so they become efficient. That thing that where it says like, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. So we're essentially just giving people a fish right now, and they're eating for a day, and then they don't know what to do with themselves afterwards. If we can just slowly but surely get smaller numbers of people that we're really focusing on, that we're getting themselves healthy internally and externally, putting them into housings, all that sort of stuff, and then keep doing that with small numbers of people rather than having a multitude of people that we're just putting into houses and doing nothing with them. We're just chucking them into houses and saying, okay, you're on your own now, then that's going to work better. Because what's happening is that if we work on a smaller number of people and we get them right internally and externally, they're not going to go back to being homeless. They have their path set now. They know what they're doing. They know what they've got to do. They've got their life set up. Everything's sweet. But what's happening is we're having a large number of people being put into all these houses and housing and all this sort of stuff around the state, around the world, around Australia, sorry. After 2-3 months, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go back to being homeless. This is shit. I don't want to be here. It's depressing being in those places, bro.
Yeah.
I go, like, there's a place near my house called, and do you know what they call it in Redfern? Suicide Towers.
Jesus.
They actually have named it Suicide Towers, bro. Not the government, but that's what it's named. It's called the Suicide Towers. Let that sink in. So many people are killing themselves and not wanting to be there, bro, that they have named it the Suicide Towers by the people that live there.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. So if we can, so instead of having 100,000 people being put into these houses, have 20,000 people that are put into these houses, and we really focus on educating them in a way to getting their internal environment better.
And I would add to that as well is I would incentivize businesses to employ people that are
there
in the
it
middle,
is. There it is.
In the
Absolutely.
middle of, getting off the streets and whatever you want to call that stage of life, right? People that are in rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there are many incentives right now for businesses to do so.
There's the incentives to hire Indigenous people.
Yes, and people with disabilities.
Yep. But
both of those exist, but for homeless people, no, you're on your own.
Nothing.
And if I, as a business owner, know that I can hire Mike, who's worked at 3 other restaurants, and he's reasonable, he's smart, he's there on time or whatever, but it's going to cost me $25 an hour. Or I can take a chance on Steve, who was homeless 3 months ago, but he's hungry, he wants to go for it, and the government's going to cover half that wage, so I only have to pay $12.50.
There you go.
Hey, listen, bring me 3 other mics. I might only hire one of them, but bring me 3 others and I'll pick out the best one.
Absolutely.
And suddenly Mike's got a job that I think Steve doesn't have.
Yeah, and that's the thing, mate. We need to start thinking outside the box to finally break the chains of homelessness, because at the moment we're just going around in circles. Yeah, we're getting people off the street. Cool, we're getting them off the street. They're off the street for a couple of months, and then they're like, this place isn't really that good, so I'm going to go back on the street. And because their internal environment isn't matching their external environment, they're just going back out there anyway. So we really need to focus on what's going on in here more than what's going on out here first.
And one of the best ways to do that outside of religion, because religion is important, I think, for a lot of people. Religion provides a structure and a framework and a way of thinking and a set of beliefs, and it was powerful for you and it changed your life. But it's not going to work for everyone.
No,
it's not going to work for everyone.
But they need routine. They need purpose.
Routine.
And a
you
purpose.
have to be accountable to be at this job at a certain amount of time. So if you can't make their religion about God, make their religion about their career or money, because that's what a lot of people do.
It's all about the routine of it, man, and just giving them a purpose, because at the moment they don't have a purpose. No one's going to hire them. So if you tell them, okay, we're going to take you off the street, we're going to put you in a house, we're going to give you a job, you're going to see a therapist, we're going to give you a voucher for food, all that sort of stuff, and that's 3 months worth of thing, bro, that's habits completely broken, because it takes 21 days to become habitual towards doing something, right? They're not going to get it right all the time. And yeah, there's going to be people stuffing up and all sort of stuff. But if we can get through to, out of the 10,000 or 20,000, 15,000 of them change their whole life around, that's 15,000 less on the streets, bro. So we're saying, there's about 100,000 people sleeping every single night on the streets, right? Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's the statistic, or what we saw, about 100,000 people, or just probably a little bit more than that. If we do that, bro, on 6 different occasions, there's a homeless situation sorted in Australia. So 15 or 20,000 people at once, we take them out, we get health professionals in, we get food, we get businesses hiring these people, all this sort of stuff. Because if we think about it now is the perfect time to do it, because a lot of foreigners have gone back home because of COVID. The economy's suffering for it because a lot of Irish or a lot of English and a lot of Hispanics or whatever it was, they were doing the jobs that we didn't really want to do, or they were just doing the jobs that they were good at, there's a lot of Irish tradies. They've all gone home now. Things like that, man. That we can educate the homeless people that are out there that want to work. Obviously, not all of them want to work. And obviously, there's some people that are older and all that sort of stuff. But getting them the help that they really need to get, and then educating them, and then working on the internal environment, we can stop homelessness, bro, within 10 years. Honestly, I reckon we can. But we're not doing that, man. We're just band-aiding it at the moment, which is not something that we can be doing.
Follow-up question: How do you filter it? How do you decide? Okay, like you're cool, you're not.
We can't do that, man. We need to help as many people as possible.
Of course,
but
we're talking about
okay. So say if you have a three-stroke policy, right? If you say you're going to go to work and you don't rock up 3 times within a month, you're out. Simple as that. If you want to take drugs, you're out. If you're taking drugs and want to get off drugs, we're putting you in a rehabilitation center. Let's do it. But I don't know why are we spending 800 million on homelessness and it's just a band-aid for it? That's a waste of taxpayer money.
Yeah, and I think, well, I know what happens with a lot of this funding that comes in straight in from the government is that organizations will take over it and pay themselves fat paychecks and ensure that they're on six-figure salaries. And you know, the government, sure, throw $800 million at homelessness, but what percentage of that is actually going to people?
Absolutely.
And what percentage of that is getting caught in administration costs?
Well,
that's one of the biggest scandals, and they probably get raises every year, right?
Probably like 30% of that goes towards administration and people's and fundings and all this sort of stuff and everything like that. Probably more even.
But it's hard because you want to pay people.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's important work, and you want people that are in that line of work to benefit from it, and you don't want them to struggle either. So you want them to be paid well. Yeah. But where do you draw that line? It's hard. It's not easy.
Exactly. And who are we to say, oh, you're not worth that much money, whatever it is. But look, at the end of the day, whatever is happening right now is just not working.
Yeah.
It's just not working. It's a simple fact. Homelessness is going up, especially after COVID. With housing rates going, housing prices going up and rent going up and all sort of stuff, you're finding more and more people sleep. When I say you're homeless, okay, it doesn't mean you're living out on the streets. It means that you have nowhere to go at night time, whether it be sleeping in your car, sleeping on a friend's house, on a friend's couch, or whatever it is. That for me is homelessness. You do not have a stable place to call your house. That is your house, and that is on the rise at the moment, mate. Housing, the affordable living cost is it's not there anymore, man. You go to the shops and something that used to cost you $100 to get groceries is now costing you $160. Rent has gone up like crazy. It's not sustainable anymore. So we're finding more and more people that are being homeless.
And I think you're going to find that now with interest rates going up at the rate that they are going up, that a lot of people are going to find themselves in positions where they were just unlucky.
100%. And that's the thing.
No fault of their own, people are going to become homeless.
I wouldn't say that it's no fault of their own, because this is how I look at it, man. You see people these days, they live in a house, they're living by the ends of their means, and what happens, right, is these people will get a pay rise. What's the first thing that they do? Bigger house, nicer car, nicer living style, all this sort of stuff. And then what happens? They end up in exactly the same position that they were prior when they had the smaller house and the salary that they were being paid before. So what happens is man, that everyone's chasing the Australian dream or the American dream of like owning this big house with this big family, nicest cars, and always trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? If I could encourage anybody in this situation that they do get a pay rise, pay off the place that you're in now and then go from there. Don't always upgrade your life to fit your pay packet. You want your pay packet to grow your bank account while you're still living in a comfortable house that's nice and all that sort of stuff. If you've got a car that works, why do you need to upgrade it? What benefits are you getting out of a car? Car goes down in price straight away.
I would agree with you in general circumstances there. I would say, yeah, for sure, like competitive consumerism is stupid, and you shouldn't be looking and waiting for the next release date on the iPhone. Or you should be. That's fair enough, but we're talking about interest rate rises that we haven't seen in human history, and we're talking about an inflation rate that we haven't seen in a very long time. So now, you know, Stephanie, who's been paying off her mortgage and has been really well behaved for 10 years, has gone through a pandemic, managed to get through it on the other side, is now paying 3 times as much on her groceries, paying 3 times as much on her petrol, paying 3 times as much.
Single mums and everything like that as well, man.
Single mum, extremely vulnerable. And then before you know it, she can't keep up with her mortgage.
Very true.
And she can't keep up with the groceries, and she's got kids to feed. So before you know it, she's on the streets.
Yep, exactly right, man. And it literally is that simple and that easy for somebody to get out on the streets. Everyone just thinks, oh, it's a choice. Nah, man, it's not a choice a lot of the time. It's actually, I would say 75% to 80% of the time, it's not a choice. Whether it be mental health, drug addiction, whatever it is, it's not a choice, man. No one wants to be out there.
I agree with you in that, like, you can always improve your financial responsibility.
Yeah.
You can always improve your investing strategies. You can always improve the way that you treat money. And I'm guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. We all overspend, especially over Christmas.
100%.
It's a bad habit, but we all do it. But you know, this is weird. In my lifetime, I've never seen this kind of climate.
Nah,
before.
man, it's crazy. And I actually do believe we're going into a recession. Like we're heading towards a recession like never seen before. Like, well, maybe not never seen before, but there is a big recession coming and people need to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stress in this world. There's a lot of angst. There's a lot of, and if you are somebody that is feeling the stresses of it all, reach out to somebody and talk to them. Don't fight things alone. And that's where I see a lot of people doing, trying to fight these battles alone without speaking to people.
Since COVID, I've had 3 friends be in and out of homes. Like since COVID, I've had, I'd say at least 3 of my close friends end up in positions where they're either sleeping in a car, sleeping on the street, you know. And one of the more interesting parts of that, it's horrible. It's horrible. But one of the more interesting parts about that as well, as I've noticed, is that when I have, because I'm, you know, especially if they're my friend, if someone I know personally, like I've got no problem extending an arm and saying, hey, come crash at my place for a couple of days, get back on your feet, figure it out. You need a job. I've got a business. You could come work for me for a bit. Like, that's fine. And a lot of people turn down help. A lot of people don't want. How do you get past that?
There's nothing you can do, but all you can do is try to comfort them as much as possible, man. But it's human nature. No, I don't need your help. I'm fine. I still do, bro, you know, I still do it to this day. Not because like, it's like somebody will reach out, like if I'm struggling mentally or emotionally or something, and then somebody can see it. It's like, oh, do you want to talk? I'm like, no, I'm good. Why? There's no need for me to be like that, man. I just need to be in a place where I'm able to speak to somebody and be vulnerable. I think vulnerability is key in all those sort of things.
You've got a psychologist now, you said? How has that process been?
Oh, man, the first...
Because there's a lot to unpack.
Bro, the first 6 to 12 months was the hardest thing because for so many years, I suppressed every single one of my feelings and emotions. And to go to somebody that I didn't know, to speak about things that I've never told anybody before, how I felt, all that sort of stuff, it was tough, man. It was really, really tough. But on the other side of that has been the most freeing feeling that I've ever felt. I feel peace. I feel joy for the first time, man. And that's pretty cool, man. And obviously that my faith has a lot to do with that as well because I've got a purpose in what I'm doing now and all that sort of stuff. But I think as a society, we have really sort of, not now, but in the past, like, I remember speaking to a girl, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go see a psychologist. She goes, what, are you crazy? It's like, you're what? And that's the sort of stigma behind it, right? It's like, oh, only crazy people go see psychologists and stuff. But for me, it's been incredible, an incredible sort of experience because I'll be speaking and then as I'm speaking, I'll realize that I've got to do something different in my life. And then it's like
and that's the process.
Yeah, it's a self-revelation sort of thing, you know? So, it's been amazing. But I will say I had probably one of the most freeing sessions in all of my life last year. It was just like one simple thing that just shifted everything. And it was the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me. I used to be a very big people pleaser because of my past. It's like I didn't want to upset anybody. I wanted to be on everyone's good side. I wanted to be loved and liked by everybody. But not everybody is going to like you and you're not going to like everybody, and that's okay. But I used to do my best to try to be liked by everybody. I would say yes to things I didn't want to do. I'd shut my mouth when I had something to say and didn't want to say it because I didn't want to upset that person. And I had a massive people pleasing side to me. Giving people, even when people were taking advantage of me, bro, I would still leave them in my life and let them, no, it's all good, like whatever you need. And then I had this session, bro, and it just changed everything. And I cut like 10 people out of my life.
What made the penny drop?
I had this session, I don't know like if many people know what this thing is called. I think it's called EMDR. So it's like a therapy session. So when you sleep and you dream, what happens is the eyes go from side to side.
Yeah.
And that's in your REM sleep. REM sleep, right? REM sleep. And what they realize is that if you do that when you're awake, then you can tap into the subconscious. and really go after the things that are really holding you down.
If you close your eyes.
No, don't close your eyes. You have to. So it is that you watch a screen and it's got a green dot that goes from side to side.
And you just follow the dot.
And you follow the dot, and then the psychologist is speaking to you and sort of guiding you through stuff and everything like
so
that.
it's kind of like a hypnosis.
It pretty much is, bro. It's absolutely mental. And I had this vision, man, that I walked in on a moment where my dad was like throwing plates and screaming and stuff. And I literally picked him up, bro, by the throat, and I put him up against the wall. And I said, if you ever come after this family again, I will kill you. And then the next part was like me as a child laying in bed. And then I was speaking to myself as a child. And I was like, hey, you're going to be a mighty warrior when you're older. You're going to be resilient. You're going to be strong. You're going to be powerful. You're going to be a mighty, mighty person. And then every single time I start to feel down, since that moment, bro, I just remind myself what I said to myself.
That's real shit, man.
Bro, and I literally feel empowered from that, man.
Yeah.
And it was just like that shift that I was no longer worthless, that I was no longer this little victim of my childhood anymore, but I was this strong, resilient human. And I stood up to my essential boogeyman, and I took back the keys of my life, bro, from that moment, and just shifted everything. It was crazy.
That's some real shit.
It was wild, man. Absolutely wild. So it was a cool experience for sure.
Damn. That's the name of your psychologist. I
Yeah,
might have to swing past.
Give it to her afterwards. It's incredible. I'm telling you, she's amazing. She's amazing. She's really, really cool, man. And she's only young as well, so she can sort of relate to you and everything like that. So it's pretty cool, man. So that's the thing. Like I encourage without psychology, I wouldn't be where I am today. So this is what I'm trying to say. The government needs to address the psychological and the mental strain that homeless people have, and understand that there's more to just putting them in a home.
Yeah, well, I think, even with student psychologists, right? Like, they make them do all these work placements, and they make them do
exactly,
all this
yes,
fucking paper filing. That's bullshit work.
Yep.
I mean, my girlfriend's a nurse, and she was when you go through your nursing course, you have to do a certain amount of work placement, and it's just bullshit work. You're just answering phone calls that don't need to be answered. You're just texting people that you don't need to text. Like, it's wasting time when those resources are available. You've got people that know they're not qualified, but they do have some skills. And even just the smallest changes in a person's life could make significant difference.
Absolutely, man. And do you know what
just having someone to talk to.
Exactly, bro. Do you know what needs to happen in the Australian government? We are too lenient on dole bludgers, that people that don't want to work, and we give them so much money, and it's costing the Australian government and the Australian community heaps of money in taxpayer money. If we cut that in half and said, listen, if you don't go out and get work, you're not going to be paid anymore, and then we put that funding into giving the homeless people a place to live and all that sort of stuff, and using some of that finances for that, it would be a massive shift. We could literally end homelessness, bro. I'm telling you right now. In 20, 30 years, we could end it, because it's not something that's just going to be ending right now, because obviously it's been a generational thing. It's been people been in that for centuries, and whatever it is. People have been homeless for years. But what we can do is we can set a stake in the ground today and say, you know what, we're going to make a shift so that in 20 to 30 years' time, people are going to be healthier. People are going to be more established. People are going to... There's not going to be a generational thing of homelessness anymore, because people are going to be a lot healthier mentally and emotionally. And that's where we need to go.
Considering everything that you've been through, where you've faced, some of the coldest parts of humanity, you've faced some of the warmest parts, and you've been through a lot of turmoil in life. Like, do you still have hope for humanity? Do you still think there's compassion there?
Of course.
Because it's very easy to look at it pessimistically.
Bro, man, people that say that this is the hardest time we've ever lived in, there's no good people in this world and all sort of stuff, they're the sort of people that only see the doom and gloom. Let's look at the world in a place where it is a beautiful place, man, right? There's still people out there helping. There's still beauty in this world. But even though there is a lot of bad in this world, bro, how long ago was it now? 80 years ago, we were in a world war. It's
not that long ago.
No, 90 years ago, we were in a world war. That's not that long ago, bro. You know what I mean? And the world, that would have been a lot harder to be back then, man. People dying of flus, people dying of common colds that we just brush off these days. That would have been a lot harder to live back then, man. You know what I mean? So I don't believe that we're in the hardest time. Yes, we're becoming more aware of our psychology and our mental health and all that sort of stuff, which I think is phenomenal. But I don't believe it's the hardest time that we've lived in. Yeah, there's a lot of oppression and but I think we're making gradual changes to become a better society. And I think there's been a lot of progress where racism is now becoming a lot less than what it used to be. but like 100 years ago, bro, like people of color were slaves and stuff, bro. Aboriginal people, like indigenous people, until the 70s, bro, were classified as flora. Like just, they weren't like classified as, yeah, bro. That's 50 years ago. So we are making progress. We are progressing as a society, which I think is beautiful and incredible. But I don't think that, I like to see the good in this world, bro. I like to see that there is a lot of good in this world, but you just need to find it, man. It's how you look at the world and how, truthfully, I think it's how you see yourself and how you see your own life that will then paint the picture of how you see the world. I love the world, man. I love the beauty in it and I love everything about it. Not everything. There's obviously some very horrific things and horrible things in it, but I choose to try to be a good person so there is more good in this world because we all can play our part.
It starts at an individual level, right?
100%, bro.
Small acts of compassion go a long way.
Well, that's the thing, mate. If you're a better person and you're bringing good into this world and you can encourage other people to become a good person, then that's a massive game changer, bro.
Yeah, and it's almost like selfish in a way when you are a good person because you feel good. Like there's that feeling
bro,
about it.
I've said that so many times. I almost feel selfish giving to the homeless because of how I feel when I do it. It's such an incredible and phenomenal
I really
feeling.
want to join you on one of these.
Bro, next time come out for sure. We're going out in a month's time, so.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please. You've been confronted with death at least 6 times that I know of.
Yeah.
Are you scared of it?
No.
No?
No, I don't think anybody's scared of death, but what I do think people are scared of is that they leave this world without the world seeing their full potential. Right? So let me elaborate on that. Is that we're not actually scared of our life ending, but we're scared of our life ending before we fully see, or the world fully sees who we actually could have been. And I think a lot of people, and I think depression and anxiety is through the roof these days is because a lot of people just live a life that the world has given to them, bro. No one's chasing their dreams anymore. Like you get to a certain age where you're like, oh, I'm just going to go and work for something or somebody or whatever it is. And my dream of becoming an actor or my dream of becoming a business owner, well, I'm just going to put that to the side. So the human soul knows what it wants, but man, right? There's more to living the way that people are living. So someone said one time I heard on this podcast is that if a lion grows up in captivity, why do they still need to lock the doors? Because inside itself, inside its heart, inside its soul, it knows that there's more outside and it's called to more than where it is inside that captivity. And humans are no different, bro. I think depression and anxiety comes from a place of not living to your full potential.
Yeah. The depression one's weird as well, man, because for the longest time we've medicated depression and we've given out antidepressants like crazy, and companies have become literally multi-billion-dollar companies of handing out depressions. And I think only recently it's been announced that SSRIs or antidepressant tablets and the technology that antidepressant pills are based upon have no clinical effect on depression.
No, they probably wouldn't, mate. And that's the thing. But I will say sleep. If you're feeling depressed, get better sleep. If you get your sleep, you get your food and you get your hydration correct, those three things have helped me tremendously. Insane amounts. Because sleep is the most... So what happens when you... So have you ever had like a really, really big, long day? And then you go home and you don't get enough sleep, and then the next day you wake up and you feel really foggy?
Yeah.
So what happens is, bro, is when you sleep, so during the day, you build up this thing of leftover protein debris in your brain, right? And it gets in between the sensories. So then like they can't communicate properly. So you feel real foggy before you go to bed right after a massive day. Then when you sleep, small waves of electrical activity wash away that debris as you sleep, especially through REM sleep, it washes it away. So if you don't get enough sleep, that debris adds up. And then that leads to stuff like Alzheimer's and things like that. So sleep is so important for people to understand.
A lack of sleep can lead to Alzheimer's?
100%, bro.
I'm so terrified of Alzheimer's.
Bro, I think everyone is, man. But our society...
Like that one specifically really scares me. Firstly, because I've seen it firsthand. I know what it looks like. I've had family members with it. Alzheimer's, and it's horrible. And secondly, I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, you need to, bro. Sleep is so important.
I'm gonna buy one. Is it Calm Palm?
Calm Palm, yeah.
I'm gonna buy a Calm Palm.
I'll give you one, bro.
Cool, bro. It's all right. I want to give my $2 to the
Thank you, man.
homeless.
Thank you, my guy. Appreciate the support. But yeah, man, sleep is so fundamental to a human body and to functioning properly, man. I love, like, I'll get into bed about 9 o'clock, no screens from 9 o'clock to when I go to sleep, because screen time is very important for you not to do. If you can't sleep, we'll say this. What happens with people is that if they can't sleep, they'll roll around in their bed and they become anxious. So what happens then?
Yeah, that's me.
So then what happens, bro? Your bed becomes a place of anxiety. So then when you're in bed, you're instantly anxious because you've programmed your brain to be anxious in that moment. So what I suggest people do is when they're not sleeping and they can't sleep, get up, get a book, go to a lightly lit place within your house, get a cup of tea of something that doesn't have caffeine in it, sit down, read a book. I guarantee you'll feel tired within the next 10 minutes.
Yes.
So if you can't sleep, don't sit into bed, roll around, getting anxious, getting upset, because that will become a place of that being exactly that, a place of anxiety. And you don't want that. You don't sit at a table waiting to get hungry, do you? No, you sit at a table when you are hungry. Same thing for bed. You don't sit in bed waiting to get tired.
That's interesting. So you associate the emotion with the externality.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So exactly.
That's
right.
why rooms have a presence about them. That's why rooms have a feeling. Like, you know, when you walk into
your bedroom or somebody else's bedroom, like, this is a place of calm.
But it's almost like the room has a soul, right? I don't want to go like metaphysical about it, but you know, when you go into like a place and you're like,
because your brain knows that if you're in there,
but it like feels tense. Like it feels like there's tension in this room.
Never felt that before.
No, you've never walked into a room and felt tension?
Oh, that's if somebody's in there that's got tension.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
We're attuned to that somehow.
100%.
So of course there would be a memory of that as well. If every time I'm in this room, I'm feeling very
anxious
or very relaxed. On the other hand, then that. Right.
Yeah. But Calm Palm helps with that, mate, because what happens is that I suggest to the people that we sell to go grab their Calm Palm 30 minutes before bedtime, set the foundation of sleep so you're feeling a little bit tired, a bit relaxed, get a book, set the foundation like that, and then within that 30 minutes, go jump into bed and hold your Calm Palm again and you'll doze off. And that's what happens, man. People that use it properly see massive results. But people that use it once and think it's just a magic potion or whatever, that doesn't happen. Like, some people it works instantly. Some people it takes a few days for it to get used, for their bodies to get used to it. If you've had insomnia for 20 years though, it's not something that's going to work like, that's it.
Yeah, so I better use it for a while.
It's about the consistency. Again, it comes back to the consistency of using something. So use it 2 or 3 times a day. Your body then realizes this is a safe space. This is when I'm holding this, it's time to relax, it's time to calm down. And then your brain associates that feeling of, when you're holding it, it's activating the acupuncture point, which calms your neurons down, calms your body, calms your physiology down, calms everything down. And then when you hold it, it becomes a safe space.
So does it send like electric waves?
Small microelectrical pulses, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And if you hold it in your right hand, it actually helps with concentration because it activates the left sphere. Yeah. It's mental.
Oh, bro, where can I get one? I'm not even saying this because you're on the podcast. I'm saying this because I actually need one.
It's incredible, man. Honestly, it's really, really phenomenal. And look, the thing is, I love about it is that.
But like, do you have a website or something?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, calmpalm.com.au.
Right.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. So I built the website by myself. I learned how to build websites by myself and everything, man. So
there's a link in the description down below if you guys want to check it out.
Thanks for that.
Of course.
But yeah, it looks, it's a double whammy for me, man, because I saw how much of a benefit it was to me. And I wanted the world to feel that as well. And I wanted to make it affordable for families because $100 that's a huge amount of money. And then you have to wait 6-7 weeks for it to get to you.
So what are you retailing at?
We sell it for $84.98.
Right.
Yeah, which is pretty cheap. And then $5 for shipping. So it's about $90 for one for Australia wide. And then international shipping is a little bit more.
Is that 90 Australian?
Yeah, 90 Australian. Yeah,
Okay.
not American. Yeah, so we are literally cheaper in Australian than American. So we're almost like half the price of. It's like $160 in American, I think. Yeah. Australian dollars.
Yeah, no, $90 is nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's the same you'd pay for like a portable charger or something.
Yeah. And the thing is, like I said, it's that I'm helping people, which is the best part of having that business. If there's anybody out there thinking about starting a business, I suggest that you always find something that's going to help people. Now, if it's directly not helping somebody, if it's like a clothing store or whatever it is, have a cause behind it, because this is what happens with business, right? if you know that this business that you're buying from has a cause behind it, that they're helping the homeless, helping domestic violence, helping whatever it is, cancer or anything like that, you're more inclined to help that business because then you feel like you're playing your part.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we're doing, man. We're just playing our part.
Yeah, as consumers, I think we've become a lot more conscious of the companies that we do and don't buy from.
Absolutely.
But the irony of that as well is that we all own iPhones.
Last thing I want to say is if you do struggle with anxiety, you do struggle with sleep, you do struggle with anything like that, go onto our website, calmpalm.com.au, have a look at the results, have a look at the reviews, have a look at anything like that, and you'll see the amount of people that we've helped, man, because it is... I do this to help people on both aspects. No matter what walk of life you come from, I want to help you get a better night's sleep. And if your sleep is good, then your mental health is good. That's as simple as that.
Jon Paul Jr., ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anytime, bro. Appreciate it.